I was able to dig up some old files from some old hard drives, thanks to the technical advice of one of my old army buddies. He explained to me how to just buy this little cable, and using the cable I would be able to access these old hard drives. So I've done that with a couple of them, and I found these old files. I had back in I thought it was like 2005 or 2006. I tried to start a web radio station, and I knew I knew that I was going to be laid off from work because they were shutting down our manufacturing plant or repair facility, and so I was trying to get some things started for myself, to be in business for myself, and one of them was a tactical shooter radio, I think it was called, and it was a web radio station and using a service, an online service, but it was trying to get anyone to listen to it. Even though I had lots of licensed music on it, it was really difficult, so it didn't really take off. So I tried to create some even better, unique content that might interest people, and I found this. I found some Midi compositions, and they were by a fellow named Reichard. And he was an acclaimed Doom level editor, and he had composed Midi remixes on a wide range of video games. And so I interviewed him and then played his compositions while interviewing him, you know, in between segments. So I want to share that with you now. Now, the interesting thing about MIDIs is that they sound differently depending on which sound card you're playing them on, or sometimes it's just your motherboard has a little bit of sound capability in it, and they play off your motherboard. And I think I was playing these off a Sound Blaster Audigy at the time. It might have been just a Sound Blaster, but I think it was an Audigy. So keep that in mind. What I did was I played them on the Audigy, and then I converted them to MP3 so that I could, I think, put them on the radio, and they would play in order, each segment. So I made a this little web page just to get all the files organized, and this is actually a self-portrait by Jay. And anyway, I want to go ahead and play that interview for you now, and hopefully I keep them in order, because I think if I do this, maybe it'll work. Let's see.
Okay, this is Uzi Yahoo at Tactical Video, and I'm interviewing Jay Reichard, who is the artist who has composed a number of MIDI compositions, which we will be sharing with you in tonight's show.
So Uzi Yahoo was my gamer tag at the time, and it was how it was what, like, Bohemia Interactive called me when I was a fan of Operation Flashpoint before it had even been released. They even had a web page, Bohemia Interactive, where I had made a comment about something I saw on the web page, and they put on the web page, Uzi Yahoo, this is a placeholder or something like that. So it was kind of funny. It was like directed personally at me. Anyway, so when he refers to Uzi Yahoo, he's talking about me.
Let's see, Jay, what got you into composing midis in the first place?
Well, actually, it started when I started building Doom levels. It was mainly because I couldn't get MP3s to play in-game, but I found out that the music played in Doom is converted MIDI. So I pretty much figured, since I can't find the music I'm looking for, I might as well start making it. It made sense to me at the time. So one thing led to another, and I pretty much stopped working on Doom levels altogether. Not to say I quit doing it, but still, haven't worked on one in a long time. But that's what happens when I get too involved in music.
So about what year did you work on Doom levels?
Well, I started about 2 years ago. I had a project going on. It used to be called Crypt, then I switched it to Villa de Rye off of an old Castlevania game. Pretty much I just started working on pretty noobish levels. Eventually I got better. I started using source ports. It's about a year into it, I started making MIDI. Yeah, when I finished the project, about a year later, I put it up on the internet, mainly because I was nervous. And I had it reviewed by a couple of guys at website Doom Watch Station. And I scored a 9.5 out of 10, I think.
Wow.
I thought it was pretty cool. It's the first thing I've ever done, and it's actually worth something.
So it was a well-received, a modification or a total conversion or what?
Well, it was just a map pack. I had a couple of sounds in there as well, but I wouldn't really call it a total conversion.
Was it mostly single player or deathmatch maps or what?
Well, it was single player at first. Then I threw in some multiplayer starts for co-op. Then I went back and redid all the maps for deathmatch. So I got kind of two different map packs, one for single player or co-op, and I got another one out there for deathmatch.
Cool. So are you a retro gamer? Is that why you chose Doom, 2 years ago?
Oh yeah, I love the retro stuff. I mean, sometimes you'll see me playing F-Zero on my brother's TV. I mean, really old stuff. I don't mind the new stuff, but, there's just something about the old stuff.
Yeah, I remember I spent lots of hours playing Doom. That was a good game. Let me see, I ran it on I think a 386, and yeah, I spent a lot of hours on that. I was watching a movie or I was someplace and I said to myself, I've been here before, and I really worked at trying to remember where it was, and finally I realized it was a map in Doom. That was where I had been.
Man, I've done that so many times. Because actually, my first project, I think about, one of the levels, I actually based one of them at my dad's office. I based another one off my high school and another one off my middle school. So I can pretty much understand that.
So these MIDIs that you've made, they will plug right into a Doom installation?
Pretty much, yeah. There's one thing that you got to do, though, if you're putting it onto regular Doom instead of a source port. What you got to do is you got to convert it into an MUS format. I don't know why that is, but for some reason it works in Doom and won't work with MIDI. But either way, music's music.
Let's see, I've got a number of your compositions that I've chosen as my personal favorites, and I'm trying to figure out, the evolution of your skill over time, which of these compositions was your first?
Well, let's see. I used to have one that wasn't on the website. I had it on there one time, but then I took it off. It was actually one of the Underworld thing from Super Mario 3. I think I pretty much got better after that, though. I think that's the very, very bottom of what I could do. It was horribly noobish. I didn't even have a baseline at this time. I was just trying to work it out. Let me see if I can bring something up, and I can see exactly which one was my first one was, because it was so long ago. I mean, of course, again, I can't remember what I did 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
It looks like somewhere in there, I started working on Quake 2 after I had a little bit of practice. So I think that's pretty much my first couple of Midis that I put out there.
Uh-huh.
Not sure, though. I might have tried doing a bit of Doom first. Mainly because, I played Doom every day, and I pretty much figured it out. Oh, wait, there it is. It wasn't Quake that I did first. It was another Mario 3 MIDI I did. It was of the warship. When you have the warship scrolling by on the screen and you didn't move fast enough, you get squished by something. I started doing that, and so I never really understood that. It's a little weird. But I did that, and afterwards I started getting better, started working on bass line. Well, more bass than anything else, because I can't really hear bass on my laptop, so I got to use headphones. But afterwards, started working on drums better, throwing in some nice cymbals there. I found my right cymbal, so I use that almost all the time. And it's pretty much just upward from there.
Oh, that was cool. It was like very reminiscent of automatic weapons fire.
Now, what kind of software do you use for this, or do you use an electronic keyboard, or what?
Well, basically, I got a program over here. It's called Noteworthy Composer, but it's just basically point and click, and that's how I do it.
Okay, okay. Have you had any, like, musical training before this? Working with traditional instruments?
Well, a long time ago, back in the 3rd grade, my parents got me enrolled in a piano class. Now, I didn't do too good because I still have a keyboard that's gathering dust underneath my bed. But other than that, yeah, I had a little bit of training. I don't exactly remember why I dropped out, though. Probably something regarding school. 3rd grade was a bad year for me. I had gone through a couple of schools. I guess piano was what I started off doing.
Okay. Now, refresh my memory about Quake. Wasn't there something about Quake 9 Inch Nails had some kind of involvement with it? I notice your compositions are Quake 2, but how did the involvement with music and gaming begin with Quake 1?
Well, I'm pretty sure that 9 Inch Nails set a milestone in this, because up until this point I had no idea that actual bands would actually do game music. Even though I wouldn't call Quake 1's music actually music, because it was more like, background noise, but still, I guess it was considered mood music. I'm pretty sure that that's all where it started right there.
Man, that was cool. I can see why I was so impressed by this guy's music. When I sampled some of his compositions, I was just like, man, this is good stuff.
So, what was it about 2 that captured your attention more than Quake 1? So, what was it about Quake 2 that captured your attention more than Quake 1, its soundtrack?
Oh man, 2 words: wailing guitars. Right there. I mean, straight out of F-Zero X. Right there. I loved it. Kind of like that techno track. I guess it's like track 10 or something. I kind of like that. That kind of struck me as interesting. I'm pretty sure that's the first one I did before I actually started getting into the guitar work.
You started doing F-Zero before your Quake 2 compositions?
Actually, yeah, I tried a little bit out of this Game Boy Advance game, Maximum Velocity. Again, it was horribly noobish. I didn't even have a bass line. I didn't even know how to use tempo at that point. And it kind of got annoying and repetitive. And I just kind of figured I'd back off a little while, wait till I got a little better, do some other tunes first. Eventually, I went back and redid the same tune. I have that up on my website right now. Then I started doing the first F-Zero again. I pretty much thought that those were my favorite music files to do. Recently finished one of Sand Ocean. I thought was pretty cool. Recently, I listened to it again. well, the original track anyway. And I noticed it was kind of dull, a little quiet. It had a good bass line. The drums were kind of repetitive, I thought. So I went ahead and went through there, listened to it again and again and again. I actually got this other game, GP Legend. It's another F-Zero game, and it turns out they had a remix of the Sand Ocean track, so I listened to that. Sounded a heck of a lot better, had some off-key notes, but still, I decided, work on ear with that, and I came up with this new remix.
Okay, and there's also a track here called Stalking in Wolfenstein. You started playing either Wolfenstein 3D or the new Return to Castle Wolfenstein?
Well, Stalking in Wolfenstein came from the first Wolfenstein, which I actually played a little bit of before I started playing Doom. That was from the first Wolfenstein. This track in Return to Wolfenstein sounded really similar at first. I think it was pretty much the drum track at the very beginning that it just kind of reminded me, hey, that's from like episode 1, isn't it? So I went back, I listened to it, and I said, this is really catchy to me. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I could probably use this on a new level. So I did, and that's the result.
Oh, so some of your work, you're actually writing a soundtrack for your custom levels then?
Oh yeah. I tried to use them in my levels, and they sound pretty good, but then I figured out I got way more music than I do levels, so I got to either choose one or the other, and right now I've been working on Midi a lot more than I have Doom maps.
So did you make some Wolfenstein maps also?
Oh no, never could find an editor. I really wish I could, but looking back on it, it's kind of hard. It would be kind of hard to do because, I mean, when you look at the game, it's like each single wall is like 9 feet thick, whereas Doom, you can have like a wall that's like 2 inches thick. I mean, it brings a lot more realism to gaming, I thought.
Yeah, yeah. Another one of your tracks that I like is MMZ Neo Arcadia Core. What's MMZ?
MMZ is short for Mega Man Zero. Ever since Mega Man X, I love Zero. I like how he just, rush in, everybody freak out, and they run away. So when they released the series, I was like, I was all like, man, Zero's out on the loose again. So I went out and got this series, and I found the final stage theme to be really attractive, which happened to be the Neo Arcadia Core. So after getting Mega Man Zero 2, I found out that they had actually used it again as a couple of other missions, and I guess they had arranged it around or something. It sounded really catchy, and I kind of got it stuck in my head, and I guess I just kind of wrote it down on paper for a little while, and then I actually went back and actually did something with it.
moving. Let's see. Metroid, Brinstar.
Another one of your tracks that I really like is the Metroid track by the name of Brinstar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard that out there somewhere. I got Metroid Prime a couple of years ago. I guess it wasn't last year, so it had to be the year before, because that's when I got this laptop. So I went out and got it. I beat it once, and then I found out it had the original Metroid on there. So I'm like, okay, why not? I haven't played it in a long time anyway, and the only thing I've really seen of the ending is my brother beating it that many years ago. So I went back, and I heard the original theme of Brinstar, and just kind of got it in my head. The whole Midi, though, could have used a little bit more work because the distortion guitars were a little quieter than what I wanted them to be. It didn't turn out too well in Doom, which it probably could have. It could have been a lot better than what it is.
Do you find that once you've put the track into a game that it some distortion results playing it in the game engine, or do the sound effects in the game tend to mask or hide some of the finer sounds in your compositions?
Well, what I find out is when I put my music into, let's say, a Doom map, yeah, the sound does end up masking the entire music score. But one thing I like about Doom is that, fortunately, the monsters don't keep coming back and over and over and over and over. So you actually do get to hear a little bit of the music while you're running around looking for a key or probably looking for a switch. I try to make the guitar track sound loud and obnoxious so where you could hear it over the actual fighting. And it would kind of set a mood to the entire battlefield.
Like the chaos or fog of war?
Yeah. I mean, if you got something running you into a corner, I mean, you're going to want to have something atmospheric, or you want to have something to get your adrenaline going so you can actually take this guy out.
Yeah, there's another track here that I thought really had some heavy mood to it. Believe it was Sign of Evil 2. Really gave this heavy, almost like a cemetery or an evil temple kind of feel to it.
Oh yeah, that right there is the original ending of episode 1 of Doom. It's another track that I tried to remix when I was fairly new at it. I think I actually still have the old file. The reason I had to do this track again is because I didn't know how to use tempo at the time. And also I didn't know much about using decrescendos and crescendos and stuff. So much I went back, I listened to it again, and it's one of those really empty sounding tracks. So I figured, if it sounds empty enough, why not go ahead and use it somewhere where everything looks like it's been destroyed or something's been ripped apart. And it really just kind of sets a mood to it. I kind of like the separate lead other than the guitar. I forgot what it was called. But it seems to have a really empty feel to it, like something is not right or something just died. Something is not there. There's no more life to the place. And I just kind of enjoyed that feeling when I was listening to it, writing it, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I'm trying to find tracks that would appeal to gamers to broadcast on the station, and in my research or my little quest, I came across AC/DC's Hell's Bells. Now, there are quite a few groups and bands whose work I'm not really familiar with because I wasn't really a metalhead when I was a teenager, and I've kind of been out of it, the music scene, for like 15 years or something. But the opening to Sign of Evil 2 reminded me a little bit of Hell's Bells, or the opening to Hell's Bells.
Well, I can't say I've ever listened to Hell's Bells. Mainly I'm just listening to other CDs of remixes I find off the internet. It's mostly game music. And I don't find a lot of really in-your-face metal remixes out there. Most of the stuff I actually find is atmospheric. Sometimes I'll find a decent piano mix for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why I would listen to piano. But there would be a lot of nice atmospheric remixes. I mean, they can make you actually feel probably what was going through the guy's head at the time. But I can probably understand how that would make you feel.
Yeah, it also kind of reminded me of a movie, an old movie, called, I believe, The Hurricane. And in the movie, it's a tropical island somewhere, and slowly over time, the effects of this hurricane build up until finally everything on the island is getting destroyed. And there's a church bell throughout the destruction sequence of the movie that just keeps clanging in the wind. And eventually I think the church gets toppled too. And I remember a man who'd climbed a palm tree to stay above the storm surge, and finally I think he gets washed away also. So it kind of reminded me of that also. Do you tend to take songs that you've heard in games and embellish them, try to add to them, or mostly you'll do a remix, try to use the same source sounds and rearrange them, or what approach do you take most of the time when you hear a game track that you like?
Well, basically, I'll listen to a game track, and if it's a game track I really fell in love with, then chances are, it may not have had something that I would have liked in it. So basically, yeah, I guess I'm guilty of trying to add to music right there. But even for some music that I don't like, I've actually gone in and remixed it, making it sound a hell of a lot better. I mean, The Cursed Moon, that is a track right there from episode 2 of Doom. It was really kind of quiet and dull, and I think it could have used a little bit more feeling. So pretty much I just went in there and just added and added and added until it sounded fairly decent to me, fairly enjoyable.
And then finally, one of my favorite was the Zelda 4 Tail Cave track, and I think that's because it sounded different than all the rest. Not saying that I don't like the other tracks, but I'm saying it stood out as separate. Why was it that that track sounds so much different than a lot of the others?
Well, basically, when I played the original game, it was very quiet. very creepy. I mean, for a first level, it was out there somewhere. And for some reason, I couldn't see this remix as a beatdown. I mean, I've seen a remix on Overclocked before that actually had a beatdown. It sounded decent, but I don't think it really belonged. So what I did was I decided to go back, and seeing that a Game Boy only had like 8-bit sound. I mean, it only had beeps and the occasional noise. So I tried to figure out what would these instruments be like if they weren't just beeps and noise. If they were actual instruments, what would they sound like? So basically, I figured that there'd probably have to be a slap bass in there somewhere, and a couple of string arrangements, and I basically went with that. Basically, I thought that would pretty much bring out what it was supposed to accomplish in the first place.
Now, in your pursuit of retro gaming, are there any websites that you favor more than others, ones you consider invaluable in keeping up with news, mods, user-created content?
Definitely, there's one site that I go to a little more often now than I used to, Doom World. Now, it's one of those websites you go out there and you're looking for new stuff for old games. Doom World is intentionally in favor of Doom rather than other games, and they have huge map archives. I mean, I'm still submitting maps. Not to say that I'm actually making maps right now, but I'll find something on my hard drive and I'll submit it there, and I get a couple of responses. But definitely, Doom World is one to check out. Doom Watch Station, that's another one right there. I'm sure there's some other ones. Music-related, definitely Overclocked Remix and VG Mix. Those ones would prove invaluable if you're looking for some new material to listen to.
Okay. What are the most memorable maps you've ever played in both Doom and Quake, and could you describe them in detail for us?
Well, let me think. Ever since I played the first map of Doom, it stuck in my head. I actually did a remix of, well, I've done both the music and the map. I actually remixed the first entire episode into one map, just kind of throwing in random rooms together from scratch. But definitely that map right there, Quake, I kind of like that one map where, you know, you kind of step into the room, there's like this big hole in there, and you just kind of drop straight down. I guess there's like this switch or something in there. It was a little weird, but I just kind of like the fact that you had to actually drop down into somewhere and, I guess, break your leg from the fall. but I guess that seemed pretty interesting. And of course, you can't forget the entire castle from the very end of Quake 2. It was huge. There were lots of guys coming in from the sky, everything. I guess probably the force fields were pretty cool. Because, I mean, you wouldn't expect really a castle to have something like that, but then again, it is set on an alien world anyway, so you never know. Seemed kind of interesting to me at the time. I kind of like your name, by the way, because I got this weapons mod for Doom.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool, you know, because if you were to be in a death match, It'd be like Uzi with an Uzi. It'd be kind of
Yeah.
cool. I love it.
Yeah, I was in a co-op mission for Operation Flashpoint. There's a guy named TJ who was running a server quite often. He may still be, I'm not sure. Basically, I broke off from the main group and went running around on my own, and I took a Law rocket launcher and cracked open a couple BMP personnel carriers. Someone who wasn't at the scene asked, what was that noise? And TJ responded by saying, that's the sound of an Uzi.
I like that.
But unfortunately, my games with them after that weren't as impressive. Operation Flashpoint can be pretty unforgiving if you attract too much of the enemy's attention.
Yeah, it could get pretty bad if you get too many people on your case.
A little incident that happened in Doom, I was playing my dad deathmatch in Doom, and I think he was firing rockets at me, I believe, and he was way back in a long corridor, and I was out in an open courtyard area that the corridor was connected to, and when I would line up in front of him, he would fire the rocket, but it would take so long for the rocket to get to me that I would just sidestep it when it got to me. And then I kept doing this until I think he might have ran out of rockets. So
yeah, it's pretty fun when I do that.
So after he ran out of rockets, I ran up on him with a shotgun and just shot him, and then he disconnected from the game. And I think I got on the phone with him, and he was laughing hysterically, and I didn't know what was going on. He explained to me that when I had run up on him with the shotgun, he reared back in his chair and kicked off the slide-out keyboard on his computer desk. That flipped up into the air. He fell backwards in his chair on his back, and he had a cigarette in his mouth, and then the slide-out keyboard platform fell square on the bridge of his nose and knocked some of the ashes from his cigarette onto his face or his neck or something, and so he had to quickly brush off, and it just generally messed him up. And he said that was, the worst interactive death match he'd ever been a part of.
Yeah, I used to do stuff like that in high school. In my senior year, I had a computer class in there, and I was really good at this stuff. I mean, it was Excel, HTML stuff. So it was pretty fun because after I got all my work done, I would start a deathmatch server. And I just let my buddies join and stuff, and I'd see them duking it out with a couple of shotguns. They were in a narrow corridor, and I just throw a rocket in there and knock both of them out, and they're all like, what the hell was that? I'm like, dude, that was me. It was fun. The funny part is that my teacher, I guess, he was watching the whole thing. And the thing was, we didn't get in trouble for it because he wanted to boot up another machine and start playing with us, too. He was a cool guy. I liked him. It's too bad he's not there anymore.
Yeah, I think more businesses should let their employees play games like this on their networks during their lunch. You could learn valuable things like teamwork.
Yeah, and how to dominate the competition.
Yeah, true. But I don't know. That's too progressive, I guess.
Yeah, probably. I remember when I was younger, when I was introduced to Half-Life the first time. I forget where my mother was working, but we went there after school, and everybody else had gone home, and they were still on the clock. And I peeked over the shoulder. I was wondering what all the noise was, and there I see this one guy taking out the other guy with a crowbar. And I'm like, dude, you're playing that at work? And they're like, yeah, manager's out. I'm hoping I get to find some place like that, man. That'd be cool.
And what are your opinions about the connection between violence and gaming, with games like Doom and Quake, which in their time which wasn't all that long ago, were considered the product of demons or something.
Well, basically, I got one thing that I'd like to say to everybody that thinks violence in games actually cause all these gangs and everything out there. Screw you, because I don't think that's the cause. I think that's their own choices. I mean, if you guys think that games are violent, you guys obviously have not watched a lot of TV. Because, I mean, you see these shows like Cops and I guess movies like Die Hard, which I think was a pretty good movie. I mean, these things are riddled with violence. You can't just single games out as one single source of violence. So God, man, I pretty much got no respect for these guys.
I know there have been only a few times when I have played a game and then dreamt about or had a dream later on that night that put me into a scenario where, for example, playing Delta Force 2 for the first time, that night I dreamt that I was a counter-terrorist in a team fighting terrorists, and that was largely because of the sound effects and the voice lines in the game. And then there was another game here recently. I'm suffering from my own loss of memory, but it also caused me to dream that I was a counter-terrorist. I think back in 2001 or so, 2000, Operation Flashpoint did the same thing. I don't know, does it increase aggressiveness in a person? I don't know, sometimes I get pretty aggressive, but I think it might be because I'm getting old and cranky more than anything else.
That could be part of it. It might cause a little bit of aggressiveness, but if you're extremely weak-minded, I guess it could cause you to do something that you wouldn't normally do. Probably in the days of Columbine, yeah. Something could have happened, but I don't think it really did. As for the dreams, oh man, those imp guys from Doom, those guys screwed me up. Big brown guys with red eyes and spikes all over their bodies.
Yeah.
Throwing fire at you, man, that screwed me up for months. But, I mean, there could be a link, but I definitely don't really think there is. I mean, I've got my own theories on dreams, but you never know. There could be a couple of things that we don't know much about.
Yeah. I know that as a teenager, I got into some pretty dangerous situations, and I did it without playing today's games. You know, we didn't have Doom or Quake. The most violent thing that I played was something in the arcade called Pistol Master, which had like a Beretta 93R mounted on the arcade game rack on the chassis, and you would just shoot all the enemy soldiers or agents until finally the boss in that level would say, "Get 'em, boys!" And then all the soldiers would pop up at the same time, but you really had to focus on the boss if you wanted to finish that level. Otherwise, we just didn't really have any really violent games back then that I can remember. That was the mid-'80s, by the way.
Yeah. Wow. It's around the same time I was born, you know, 'cause I'm only like 19. So I don't really know much about older days, I guess. But still, you know, I guess I can get probably a little violent, probably a little paranoid, even in high school. I mean, people always thought that, you know, since I played Doom and after Columbine happened a couple of years before, everybody thought I was the kid packing heat in my locker. I was always an angry child. I'll give it that, because growing up, I was extremely angry. My parents always told me I was born 40 years old for some reason. I guess maybe I seemed a little more. I always grew up a very angry child for some reason. I used to take it out on a lot of people, from move it to, you know, give me my food. Not to say I was a bully, but I got pretty aggressive when things didn't go my way. Fortunately, I hope I'm over that, because now that I'm legal, I don't want to be tried as an adult. But still, hopefully I'm I'm out of that phase.
I really enjoy the tactical shooters because it's almost like an angry person's utopia. You can go into this virtual world and you can kill things that aren't even human. They present an obstacle and you can just deal with them. And really, I think that warfare, it belongs on a computer. And I think it's great that they're coming out with these games where we can have large-scale firefights with vehicles now and fight other players all over the country and take out our aggressions. You know, sometimes there's a little cursing back and forth, whether through voice chat or through type chatting. But I think it's great. And what saddens me is that we seem to have evolved to that point where we could take the warfare into the computer. But recently we've kind of taken some steps back and we're taking it to other human beings again. And, you know, without getting political about it, I'm just speaking about us as a species. We're trying to survive as a species, but we're at the same time killing each other to survive.
Yeah, humans are basically a very aggressive species. I can say that without any regret, because I'm human myself. I'm guilty of being aggressive myself. I've wanted to take out a couple of people when I was in school too. You know, that's just the way everybody is. Everybody gets angry and everybody wants to take it out, even when there's something unfamiliar. I mean, religion, I guess, it's all about whoever has the better imaginary friend. I mean, for real. If you want to say, you know, hey, my imaginary friend is better than yours, I'm going to say, screw you, I'm taking you out. Nobody talks about my imaginary friend that way. But humans are basically a violent, aggressive species, and yeah, I can say that without any regrets at all. Hopefully we can get past that, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I'm not going to say that world peace is possible because I actually don't think it is. As long as there are humans, there will be hatred. There will be hatred and there will be violence and envy. Even though I do hope that we can all get past this, I seriously doubt it's going to happen. I don't want to sound pessimistic or anything, but that's pretty much why I believe anyway. Anything anyone else wants to believe is fine with me. I'm not out to change minds or lives. I'm just looking out for number one.
Yeah, on the one hand, we want world peace, but then there are people in the world that don't want it. Or the worst offense, I think, they just will not listen to reason. They will not or refuse to engage in an intelligent conversation about differences that cultures have, and then they target civilians, people who are not armed, and it's a shame, but they seem to say that they need to die.
It's weird that humans are like that. I mean, that's why it's a war crime if you take out an unarmed civilian. I mean, you want to take out the guys that are shooting at you. You don't want to go in there with your guns blazing. You want to wait for somebody else to fire the first shot, because then only then will you know that people won't want you there. Now, I believe that at that point, it's okay for you to go ahead and take them out. But as long as it's not over something stupid, like whoever lost their shovel in the sandbox, it's their fault. That's kind of retarded and childish. But still, you know, that's just my thoughts on that.
Speaking of things that could inspire us to anger and hatred, what do you think about cheaters?
Definitely they suck. I don't like them. I used to know of a couple of guys on Deathmatch Classic that I really did not like because they would use, I guess you could say they were hackers, but at the same time, I can't say that because there was this one guy, I guess his name was X-File. He used to know everything's position. He had perfect aim. He always used the rocket launcher, and he never seemed to run out of ammo. At the same time, if you ended up fragging him, he would whine and complain. I didn't really understand that, but we think he was a hacker, of course, because there was one way for you to know where everything is at one time. It's because DirectX used to have a flaw in it, and that flaw was that it would cause the walls to go semi-transparent. So even if you were hiding in a dark alcove that nobody could see through, you were completely still, he would still come after you because he would still know where you were because he saw through the walls. And people like that suck because they bring everything else down. They take all the fun out of it. And I really think that these people should stick to writing Windows programs and anything else.
If anything, they should increase the security in the Windows OSs.
Oh yeah, man, so many security flaws, it's not even funny.
What do you think about consoles? Are games going to fully migrate to consoles and just abandon the PC? Or do you prefer the PC because maybe the game is more, I don't want to say open source, but you can get into the code, you can modify things more easily than you can on a console?
Well, if anything, I don't think that games will be leaving the PC anytime soon. I don't think it's going to go all to console. In fact, I think it's going to be the other way around. Mainly because when games are programmed, they start off on a PC. And from there, they move to console on TVs and such. But you can't really do much with a console because you have more options on a PC. Because even though most games on consoles can now be played on the internet, I can tell you right away that the internet did not start on a console, it started on a PC. The PC is where everything starts. That's not to say that consoles are bad. I mean, there's some pretty good games out there on consoles that are worth a shot. They may not have the best graphics or connectability, but they're definitely fun. So it'd be sad when consoles are phased out eventually, if it ever happens. But I don't think that PC games are going anywhere.
You mentioned playing the Game Boy. Do you have your eyes set on any particular handheld gaming device?
Let me think. Not at this time, I don't think so. Ever since I got a SP, the Game Boy Advance SP, I think I've been pretty set for a while. Even though they got the DS coming out, I mean, sure it has good graphics and everything, but it'd be sad to find out that the games out there on some consoles are all graphics. The music might be bad, the gameplay might be bad, the storyline might suck and smell worse than rotten pizza. I don't think I have any console that's really in my eyes right now. Really, I'm trying to focus more on getting class for school.
And where do you see gaming taking us in the future?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, actually. I'm pretty sure that most games will definitely focus more on the past. I mean, there's been an outbreak of World War II games lately. I guess the main purpose for that is that World War II actually happened. Also, there's a possibility of these games going into the future as well. We've seen it before. We've seen Doom. We've seen Quake. We've seen Halo 2. We've seen Half-Life. I'm definitely sure that more games are going to end up going into the future because people try to look ahead. Sometimes they try to look ahead a little more than they're supposed to. Still, people are always wondering about what's going to happen tomorrow. Like that movie, Day After Tomorrow, with the storms. Everybody makes plans, and they don't know exactly what's going on, but they have a pretty good idea of what they want to happen. I guess if I were a game developer, yeah, I would definitely say I wish some of these things would happen. I mean, not to say that I would want to see people get mauled over by demons or stuff like that, but still, be a nice change of pace from the real life.
What's your website URL again?
My website URL is geocities.com/Zora15Z. It's Zora15Z. I seriously need to get a domain name, people.
Hey, I want to compliment you on this cool DOS layout on the website. I don't think I've seen that done before. It's really neat.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was. Yeah, ever since that 386, I used to like going into Windows, but then, I guess Gates started trying to phase out DOS or something. Let me tell you, Gates, not going to happen, okay? People are going to know DOS for a long time. If you've ever watched Strong Bad Email, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I think the DOS layout is great. I mean, it's easy to work with. All I got to do is go in and find a good line to work stuff on. It looks pretty good, too. Well, for me, anyway. Some people might kill their eyes from all the white and black. Thought it was pretty cool for the time.
Yeah,
Not
it's
thinking about changing it anytime soon, either.
No, leave it. It's great. It's like your game interests. It's retro, which is cool.
Oh, yeah, back to the Doom days. Everything was command line based. You didn't have a GUI or anything. It was just all DOS.
So, in parting, was there anything else you wanted to share with listeners? And we'll probably be putting this in an archive, too, after we broadcast it a few times. And also, are there any shout-outs you want to make to friends, family?
Well, things I'd like to say. Definitely, I'm not going to stop writing music or making levels at all, unless for some reason my computer blows up. Definitely shout-outs. I'd like to give a shout-out to my buds Dave, Michelle, and Pearl. You guys rock. Thanks for making me feel good on these days where I had trouble making music or having trouble at class. I'd like to give a big FU to my ex-girlfriend Katie and the mayor of Memphis. What's his name? Willie Harrington. Don't like you guys. I guess I'd like to give a shout-out to Reese, my brother. Even though you get on my nerves, man, I could have done it without you.
And do you think you'll ever move on to non-MIDI music composition? And if so, is there any gaming company you'd love to work for that would be your dream job?
Well, you never know. I might end up doing MP3s sometime with Fruity Loops or something. I'm taking C classes. I mean, it's not exactly a music language, but still, if I can't make music for a living, I guess I could always come out with the next Excel or something.
Yeah, have you tried Open Office?
Not yet.
Yeah, my dad told me about that, and it's supposed to be a great Windows-based but non-Microsoft alternative to Microsoft Office.
Sounds cool to me.
Uh,
I mean, anything that's not made by Microsoft is okay because it's got like huge flaws or security failures or something. I mean, that's why they're coming out with service packs all the time and upgrades. Oh, we found this because somebody hacked into it. Well, of course they hacked into it. You're Microsoft. You just put stuff out there as betas and then you put out the releases. Use your brain, people.
That one was almost trance-like. Let's see.
And the American economy, do you think we're going to be in the can for 4 more years or more? Or do you think we're going to start to see more gold-paved roads in the future?
Gold paved
Well, hopefully
roads.
we'll see some more gold.
So apparently the economy was not doing great back then, and then gold paved roads. That's almost a prophecy right there. Anyway, I'll let him continue.
Paved roads and flying cars and stuff. But the economy, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess things have been on a rebound as of late, and things will be looking pretty good to me if I ever get a job. Hopefully I'll get something to pay for class. I just need a part-time job, people. I don't need a full-time position. Just give me, like, minimum wage. That's all I need just to pay for class. But basically, I hope things are getting better, and when they do, it'll be one huge load off my mind, let me tell you.
Yeah, I'll be in the same boat pretty soon. I'm getting laid off here, so
That's never good.
Something's going on. I mean, it took 4 years, but the layoffs finally caught up to me now, so something's going on with America. We need to reverse it.
Yeah, definitely. We need to get things out of the toilet.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for sharing your music with listeners and taking the time to speak with us and to tell us about your interests and what got you into creating these excellent Midi files. And I hope that listeners have enjoyed your music. And this has been Jay Reichard on Tactical Gaming Radio.
So, all these compositions, they're the intellectual property of Jay Reichard, and he has rights to them. I was given license to play them in the framework of this interview. So if you would like to use any of his compositions in any way, then I would contact Jay Reichard. I'm not in contact with him now, so Jay, if you're out there somewhere, you could leave a comment maybe in the under the video. I'll be porting this over from Twitch over to YouTube so that other people can enjoy the interview, and I hope you're doing well wherever you are, and here I am enjoying your art almost 20 years later. So I should look you up and see if you went on creating even more MIDI compositions, and see how your art may have progressed from 2005. But until I do that, this is what we've got, and this body of work is pretty enjoyable as it is.